us to Three Body Problem, Episode 5, Judgment Day. As threat level rise, a secret mission to retrieve enemy intel ventures into dangerous territory. An ominous message reaches Earth. All right. So Panama. This episode, Judgment Day / What Happened in Panama. That's what we shall call this episode.
Yeah.
Those damn microfibers. I literally was like, "Holy fuck!" That's what they were doing. Because this whole episode, you're watching Raj and Augie in Panama working for Wade on a project, and you know she does nanofibers, but for some reason I was not like I didn't understand. I was like, what is she building? And then they just it was straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
I did scream mainly because there were parts where like there are kids. They're showing us kids. I don't want to see a kid like literally split into a million little pieces here. No. And then they cut away and they only showed us adults.
Right. And the kid's foot, but I think that Augie saw later.
Yeah. The aftermath of a shoe of a foot, but you don't actually see the kid, which thank God I did not need to see that. But it was a very well done sequence. It went on a little bit too long. But you definitely got the horror element of what happened, which is good. That's what they wanted, considering Augie's distraughtness since Panama. But majority of this episode is about the lead up and the execution of that whole sequence. So what was going through your mind during that?
Same. I mean, whenever I realized, because I was like you, I was like, okay, okay, you're getting her work on again, and what's the purpose of these? Not, because we talked about this even last week, and as far as why the scientists were all committing suicide and everything, and what's the ultimate goal that the Santi were trying to do here, or Evans and Evans as well as their emissary. But I mean you said it all. I mean, whenever it happened, I was like, holy fuck. I mean, I was like, wow. It was hard to watch, especially with the little kids at the beginning. It was, and it was a dramatic effect, and it was very effective. I mean, but I think to this point of the series, because when I started with this episode at first, I was kind of, I will say, it was good and things were picking up, but I was kind of like, where are we going here? Why we call it? Yeah. And then that happened, and then it just, everything from that was just like, whoa. So.
Yeah, see, I think I got a bit more of that in the next episode, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But this episode, I was surprised because we start off with the aftermath of the raid and Wenjie in present day being caught and by Wade and held for questioning, even though she legally hasn't done anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Of it all is very questionable.
Yeah.
But you start to see some of the interrogations that occurs, and Clarence, who does the interrogation, and Clarence asks the questions that we're all asking. It's like, okay, we all know Evans read Little Red Riding Hood, and the Santi want nothing to do with us anymore because we're liars, okay?
Right.
And then the raid happens. So why did they let that happen? And then this happens after Augie like restarts her projects, and there is no countdown clock. Like the Santi are clearly no longer protecting anyone. Like they're not here for protecting anyone, because again, we're all liars and we're all plugs, as the message reads at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So it's very much that like that loss of trust. But Wenji is still persistent. Like it's Wenji is in this weird situation where I'm like, I don't know what your play is at this point. Like, and get into it later towards, I think it happens in episode 6, but yeah, because they do Judgment, they destroy Judgment Day to get intel of all of Evan's recordings of the conversations he's had with the Santi.
Right.
And then Wade gives, like, let's Wenjie listen in on those, like the highlights, which includes the moment where he inadvertently like made them lose all faith in us.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was like, I mean, I know this, you're right. I mean, this episode really got into the, the gathering of the intelligence, and really, as far as her play, I mean, one of the things that we wondered about before was whether or not Evans was indeed Vera's father, and we did get confirmation that he was at least a biological father, and that was about the extent of it.
Still does not make any sense to me, but okay.
Well, I mean, I guess. And I guess we learn later, well, in episode 6 about Vera learning about who are, I assume she learns that that Evans is her father at that point. I don't know, but at least we know that Vera does discover their correspondence with one another, Evans and Wenjie. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing that this episode, like I said, I felt, I guess it was a good Augie episode in the sense that we finally she's finally getting to do some stuff as far as more than just like seeing this countdown clock, how she fits into the overall bigger plot to, get the Santi. And then the other thing I thought that stood out was, I don't know if it stood out, but it was just like, it's set up, it's starting to give Will more things to do other than just pining away for Jen. Because Jack leaves his estate to Will, and that gives that, as the story unfolds in the subsequent episode, we see him utilizing some of those resources for the plan that they come up with. So, and then of course the bigger thing is, Wade and Jen putting on the headsets and learning more about the AI that they sent, and also really get into the core about why the Santi wanted to, basically they're killing all these scientists because Earth, it took the Santi millions of years to get to the development, whereas Earth, Earthlings were able to do all these scientific advancements faster than the Santi. So ultimately the Santi was like, oh, y'all are going to overtake us. So we're going to do what we need to do to make sure we stay on, that we remain in control here. So, but we can squash you bugs before you squash us.
Right, which I think we kind of already knew, though. Like the whole, even though it wasn't so much a question of why for me, it was more of like how. Like, how is this happening? And then they explain it with the proton, and that's something that we kind of exchanged a brief conversation about this weekend, where it's like the good thing about this show is you get a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and it's so nice to have them all immediately answered.
Yeah.
And then new questions come up, or additional follow-up questions, if you will, come up.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with how we're pairing this show with in blocks of two.
Yeah.
This show might drive me crazy if we were watching one episode at a time, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it would.
Be very drawn out.
This is, I think the two page is too much to binge, but you're right. The weekly would be kind of, just a solo per week would also be kind of tough.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough to talk about episode 5 without talking about episode 6. So I'm just going to do a brief synopsis of the stars of our destination.
Yeah.
With the world in a state of panic following a momentous declaration, Wade gathers the world's greatest minds to prepare a defense plan. So yeah, we have. I still don't think Will's doing a whole lot. He made a donation, but he's still just pining after Jin. And I still have no idea what Saul is doing. He's really not like this. The Oxford 5 has come down to the Oxford 2. It's Augie and it's Jin. Like, they're the only real players at here right now.
Yeah.
Which these 2 episodes, because of what happens in Panama, Augie is clearly against helping Wade prevent to allow our technology to advance so that we are prepared when the Santi arrive 400 years from now. And Jin is more on board, and by the end of it, Saul kind of convinces her. Saul and Will convince her to actually go and help. So Will and Saul are emotional support. So they're emotional support characters.
Yeah.
But it's just so. Well, we're going to talk about episode 6, of course, but I do want to say one thing that I've been thinking about in terms of both this show and Shogun, and just the fact that we're watching these 2 shows simultaneously. Both of them are both based off of books. Both of them are it's large scale storytelling. Granted, both of them are in different genres, and I think they have arguably, argument wise, they have different problems, and they're like mirror images of one another, where 3 Body, 1 Problem. It's a sci-fi show, very conceptual. The characters, though, are flat. The characters there's not a lot of depth. There's not, because you can't do that type of, any one of these characters could die, and I'd be like, okay, moving on. Granted, I'm like that about a lot of characters, but still, come on, hear me out.
No, I'm there with you on that one.
Yeah, it's just, but why it's still a very watchable show, a very enjoyable show, is because the concept, the ideas, the bigger storyline here, and the mystery of it all. Flip it over to Shogun. I find characters very deep. It's a very character-driven story. We have a lot of them, and so at times some of them are more shallow than others. But at the end of the day, you're watching Shogun because of these characters and because of the internal conflicts and the politics and all of that. I don't think you're necessarily watching Shogun because of the elaborate story that is like Toranaga rising above and becoming Shogun status. It's a very general story that we've seen 1,000 times play out. It's just the fact that the characters themselves are very compelling, and the internal conflicts are very compelling. It's like the reverse of what we're seeing. So it's taken me a while, but I'm like, okay, now I get why we have this weird, this nice balance between these 2 shows, because both of them are good for very different reasons and for opposite reasons. Their strengths and their weaknesses are opposite of one another.
I could not agree. Yeah, more. I mean, you're spot on with that. I can't add anything more to that. That's yeah, I completely agree.
And that's it for us. No. We're just gonna leave it.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I was thinking about that today too, with as I was putting together my notes for tonight, and the only thing I will add is just like, to your point about they're both off of books. Some of the creative decisions that in the adaptation of these stories, I think took very good stories, and the choices that they made as far as where they diverge from the source material in many ways has enhanced the story that which a good adaptation should do. I mean, it should be honored, it should be faithful to the source material, but sometimes things don't necessarily translate one-to-one from book to live action, so you need to make some dramatic changes to make it work. And I think I haven't read either one of these books, but from just hearing other people talk about them on other podcasts or reading reviews about them, I mean, that definitely is something that I've seen come through.
Right. Yeah, they're adaptations. It's not one for one, and so choices definitely have to be made. So the stars of our destination. So we're going to space.
Yep.
That has been decided. We're going to send a person. Is it going to be Raj? Are they going to send Raj to space, or do you think they're going to send Jin to space?
Well, Raj is definitely getting sent to the moon to lead up the effort.
Yeah. That's a fair. Do you think Jin and Augie are also going to be sent to the moon, or is it just going to be Raj?
I think the team will go to the moon.
Okay, we're going to space.
Yeah, we're going to space now. Who's going to be on the? Yeah, who's going to be on the little starship that gets sent to the Santi to be our mole or whatever you want to call her, emissary? That who knows? It could be a character that has yet to be introduced, for all I know.
Yeah, it's gonna be Clarence.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's gonna be Saul.
It's gonna be We're gonna finally make use of Saul. Finally, he is the one connected to Vera, just because he's the person who last saw her before she died. Yeah. And so rewind a bit to back when we were saying like this last week, we had a lot of discussions about Vera and her parents, and we got the answers. Her dad biologically is Evans.
Yep.
I still don't, why I said my comment earlier about like I don't understand it. I understand that he's the father. Like, okay. I don't understand like him having never met her before, yet Wenji and him still in constant communications because they're both tied to the Santi. Yeah. So and I get it. Okay, they're not together, but like, so you just had sex that one time and like you never like he never saw you pregnant. Like, is that what you're trying to get me to believe? And also, Wenji, come on. Explain to me, why wasn't your kid on the boat? I don't understand that. And then it was also clarified that Wenji did not give Jin Vera's game. Like, that was never right. Vera's game, and we were right about that. Which makes sense. We were right. That was all a lie. And so Vera now, she saw the correspondence, but what has not been confirmed is if she saw the countdown clock.
Right.
So she could still, and it's just because I still think it might have been the countdown clock with her, just because of the last thing she says to Saul, like, do you believe in God? And I don't know if correspondence about aliens between her mom and absentee father would like spark that so much as actually seeing things. But yeah, it is interesting how much Vera has a presence in this
Yeah.
show,
Mm-hmm.
and we barely see her, but she's so connected to everyone.
Yeah, connected to everyone, and plus all her work is so connected to, again, the overall mission of the Santee to with the Southland to like keep retard our scientific development, because she was because she oversaw one of the super colliders, and she saw the wonky things that were happening with it. But yeah, to your point about, I'm still not clear either, to be honest. I mean, I have thoughts as far as why Wenji hid Vera from Evans. Was it she? But I just don't. It hasn't been. I haven't seen anything in universe to like other to confer to like show what about Evans and his role in all of this with Judgment Day, and that Wenji didn't want Vera to be a part of that.
Yeah. We had a lot of flashbacks with Wenji, and now like between 87 and present day, it's like, what happened? But what happened? Seriously.
I mean, there's a lot. And so listeners, if you guys have any theories, love to hear from you as far as like, what do you think, why she kept what kept Vera away from Evans? Because as far as like, why did Vera have to die? I mean, to your, as far as the I do have some thoughts about that, especially something that Wenji said about the the whole thing with the bugs and
so why do you think it is? Why did Vera have to die?
So Wenji notes that in this episode that she began to see what the Red Brigade in the Cultural Revolution, she could sort of identify with them,
right.
And I think Vera is a lot like her father, who was who was doing these scientific things to advance to advance our technology and knowledge of science and stuff. And the of course, whenever we first meet Wenji, whenever she was a kid seeing her father executed there on the lawn, now now Wenji is the Red Army person who is like seeing the threat, and especially now humanity.
I still don't understand why she has to have her own daughter die.
I think.
I mean,
I guess she sees Vera as like the problem, like I guess the work that she's doing and stuff is going to keep will advance us to the point where the Santee won't be able to help us, which is right. Wenji wants. At the end of the day, she sees the Santee as this benevolent race that's going to come here and save us. And Vera is the person who's doing all these great things with science, with all these other scientists around the world, learning this, and I
understand.
So I think that's the threat. That's the threat.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying before. The scientists are the threat, and that's why they have to die. Wenji should not have raised her to become a scientist.
Yeah, clearly.
So I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, and like in this moment, Wenji, she probably tried to get her to be like, "Girl, you gotta stop this," but it's like, why didn't you raise your daughter to become like a teacher or something else? I don't know. So I still am not fully convinced that Vera had to die. I understand why she did,
Mm.
but considering her whole own mother and absentee father were behind this whole thing, they could have arguably prevented it. But so it's just, I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, to think about like the decisions, her faith, and yeah, I understand what I understand up until the end when Wenji sends another call to her lord and saying that she still has a useful idea or two, like don't cast me aside.
Mm.
It's like, girl, you're not even gonna be alive by the time they get here.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And you don't have a legacy anymore because Vera's dead. So and now you got Jin involved, and Jin made the different choice,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I don't know. So Wenji's very interesting,
Yeah.
but yeah, she yeah. She's not mother of the year.
No, no, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe she knew how Judgment Day would have ended eventually, and that's why she didn't have Vera on the boat to begin with. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, anything else you want to say about this episode?
We like I said earlier, we tie it back Will and Jack. I mean, Will gets Jack's part of his estate. So of course he's got pancreatic cancer and has months to live. I still, the only thing I can figure, with that storyline with Will, Jack, Jen, and Raj, um, it, just I guess it's just trying to, like, with all these grand scheme things of intergalactic conquering and whatnot. I guess we're trying to, like, humanize it some to, like, have this love triangle going on with these three characters, or at least attempt at love triangle. But Will's like, nah, he told Augie and Saul, look, I just let's let her be happy, but um I get where they're trying to go with it, but it just feels, again, I bring it up just because I feel like it feels kind of forced into the story, and it's not very organic, to all the things that are going on. Um, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, yeah. Will's gonna be on the small spaceship.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this show is gonna end. I'm going to say this now that this week we're watching the final two episodes to talk about next week, and I am doubt. I have my reservations going into these final two episodes. I don't know if they're going to stick the landing for me,
Yeah.
and I'm very much questioning things.
Yeah, I'm prepared for a cliffhanger because I know we are. This series is based off of 3 books, so I think there's only this book one, and so we got more story to tell. So I'm anticipating a cliffhanger that's going to leave me like, Netflix, you better not cancel this show.
Interesting. Interesting.